So you want to read, improve your life, be a better person, but where do you start? There are so many self-improvement books out there and they're not all created equally. In this video, I'm going to break down my top 10 best self-improvement books to read in 2020 so you can avoid the rubbish ones and go straight to the good stuff. Now, we all know reading is a great way to learn, but typically there's two problems that you're going to run into when trying to find the right books. Anyone can write a book, but very few people can write a good book. The bar for entry is low, and the bar for quality is extremely high. So not all of these books are created equally. 90% of the value is probably found in 10% of all the books out there. And another thing that I want to add in here that I noticed is lists like this, they always feature the same authors again and again and again. 7 Habits, Think and Grow Rich, Tony Robbins, you know what to expect. That's great, but it leads to a dangerous groupthink where instead of thinking different to everyone, like you set out to do, you just end up regurgitating the same mantras as everyone else. And those books have their place, they're great books, not knocking them, but I want to help you think more expansively and get the most value for every word that you choose to read. Otherwise, you're just going to waste your time reading a bunch of quotes that you could find on your Instagram feed with little real world value. For this list, and you can find timestamps and links to buy the books down below, I looked at two things. They're books I love and have had a transformational effect on me and my thinking. And they also have thousands of reviews from other people all over the world saying the same thing. Are my results like a science experiment that you can repeat them and get the same results elsewhere? Anyway, enough said. Let's get into the video and make sure you watch till the end for a special surprise for book number 10. The first book on this list is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson. It's a book that encourages you to stop allocating so many Fs to so many non-essential things in your life and embrace the magic of being you. Not extraordinary you, not wildly successful you, but just plain old, normal, sitting in your pajamas you. Reading this book is going to help you to think about what really matters to you in your life and letting go of the 99% of what you deem as being inessential. In a world that's constantly telling us we need to be more to be happy, we need perfect low fat bodies, we need to eat organic healthy food every day, we need to wake up to these productive 5 a.m. routines whilst building status, followers, success. In this book, Mark Manson argues for how hollow and unfulfilling the compound effect of all this craving is. That the more we pursue feeling better, the less satisfied we become. As he writes in the book, you and everyone you know are going to be dead soon. And in the short amount of time between here and there, you have a limited amount of Fs to give. Very few, in fact. And if you go around giving an F about everything and everyone without conscious thought or choice, well, then you're going to be the one to lose out. Suffering, ordinariness, loss, pain, these are all inevitable parts of life. And it's up to us to accept this, let go of our needs to minimize and avoid them, and choose which problems we really want to focus our energy on. Because in life, you know, we're all going to face uncertainty, unfairness, problems. We don't get to choose that. But what we do have the power to choose is the flavor of sandwich that we want to solve. And that's what he talks about in the book. The mark of a powerful self-improvement book is that it has a transformational effect on you and many, many other people. And I also believe that the best books, they transcend the time that they were written in. They become timeless, universal wisdom that's accessible to anyone, anywhere. No matter how many decades or centuries pass, can people continue to find value in its exploration and guidance? And this next book, it fulfills all of these criteria, and yet it's so often left out of lists like this because it was written so long ago. It's the book that people like Will Smith, Eckhart Tolle, and Mohandas Gandhi used for guidance, and one I come back to time and time again too. So what's this mystery book that I'm going on about? It's called The Bhagavad Gita, Talks Between the Soul and God. And although there are many versions, I prefer this one right here by Ranchor Prime. The book is written in the form of a dialogue, exploring morality before a great war takes place. And it helps you to explore, through this powerful exchange of ideas, the impact of action and inaction in our lives. One of the central ideas that I love from the Bhagavad Gita is the concept that there's an underlying connection between all living beings on this planet. By causing harm to you or any other living being, I'm only hurting myself because everyone's connected. It's helped me to learn that I'm responsible for my efforts, and that's what I should be focusing on. Now, this is an approachable book that's free from any religious dogma that other versions suffer from, and what Runshaw has done so well is translate the expansive and poetic philosophy that it wrestles with over into the English word. It's written so you can grab it, have a quick read, and then think for yourself about what this paragraph means and how you can implement it. Here's an example of one of the quotes that I like from the book. One who withdraws the senses from the world, as a tortoise draws in its limbs, is secure in wisdom. The senses make good servants, but bad masters. So definitely go ahead and check it out. The next book is one you must read because it's so good. And making an appearance again after last year's video, and this time it's got even more widespread acclaim. I knew this was going to happen, is James Clear's Atomic Habits. As you can see, I've highlighted my copy endlessly because there's so many practical gems in here. I've read so many self-improvement books, but this one still stands out. It explores some of the proven ways that we can build good habits and break bad ones. Now, if we want remarkable results in life, it's not always about willpower or motivation like a lot of people believe. In fact, it's more about the environments and systems that we create for ourselves, which in this case are our daily repeated behavior patterns, aka your habits. James Clear talks about how you don't rise to the level of motivation you have, you fail to the level of your system. And by focusing on your systems for meaning and productivity, it takes the pressure off you so you can follow the process. Everyone wants a better life. It's easy to talk about that. But when the moment of decision arrives, what happens is most of us usually choose instant gratification. It's something known as hyperbolic discounting. Therefore, what we should do is try and design our lives in a way where the easiest option is a good choice and the hardest option is a bad choice, is a bad habit. He writes in the book, this is a continuous process. There is no finish line, no permanent solution. Small habits don't add up, they compound. That's the power of atomic habits. Tiny changes, remarkable results. The next book is by Michael Neill and it's called Supercoach. In this book, he digs beneath the surface level change that most self-help gurus offer, and he introduces this concept called an insight transformation. This is basically when you change something within yourself. You have this aha moment, and so nothing is ever the same again. And he argues that those are the things that we should be striving towards, finding these insights from our own thinking. The book is laid out as 10 coaching sessions, each one built around a single transformational concept, which, if understood, can lead to a tsunami of change within you. One of the things that I love about Michael Neill's work, and this book in particular, is that he doesn't tell you what to do, but really gives you guidelines and understandings, which once you understand, they remove the need for things like SMART goals and traditional self-help speak. Is really about going to the deeper layers. And one really huge idea that I took away from this book is this concept of effortless success. That you don't need to work really intensely and hard, and it needs to be arduous, but it can be like this divine, effortless, creative force that moves through you as long as you get out of your own way. Most of our problems in life, they don't come from events or situations themselves, but from our thinking about them. And that's what we react to all of the time, and that's what gives us even greater difficulty. Your mind, it works like a projector where you're the main character playing your mental movie and you experience whatever you're thinking about rather than some kind of objective reality. Even just knowing that what you're experiencing is just one part of the puzzle, for me, I think it just relieves the pressure of not taking myself too seriously and realizing that I'm always distorting, generalizing, and deleting things to fit my narrative arc and my biases. As he says in the book, we're like diamonds who have spent so much time applying layer upon layer upon layer of nail polish to appear beautiful to the world that we begin to believe we must be covered in horse crap. We've been innocently taught from the time we're born that the right answers to our most important questions are out in the world around us, waiting to be found. After nearly 30 years of coaching people from every walk of life, I can say with confidence that the people who do really well over time, they're not the smartest or best read. They can be introvert or extrovert, seemingly self-assured or apparently neurotic and insecure, what they all have in common is they have an unusually high degree of trust in their own sense of knowing, and a willingness, this is the most important part I think in a quote, a willingness to follow that sense. If we're going to talk about self-improvement, we have to think about, just like James Clear mentions, the environments that we operate in and how they affect us. And unfortunately, time and time again in the world of self-improvement, we hear the same predominantly white, middle class and male voices over and over again. Now, it's important to acknowledge this because when you only hear from one set of voices, cultures and perspectives, you only learn in a very limited way. The book that I'm talking about is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. This is a book that's got over 40,000 reviews on Goodreads, and across these countless reviews, it maintains consistently an average of 4.42 out of 5. Alright, Keshav, but what does this have to do with motivation, mindset, self-improvement? Why are you talking about politics? What does this have to do with race? Why can't you leave that out of this video? Why can't you be not political? Well, to quote her words from the book directly, in case you're wondering that, here is why. Not seeing race, it does little to deconstruct racist structures or materially improve the conditions which people of color are subjected to daily. In order to dismantle unjust racist structures, we must see race. We must see who benefits from race, who is disproportionately impacted by negative stereotypes about their race, and to who power and privilege is bestowed upon, whether you've earned it or not. Seeing race is essential to changing the system. The mess we're living in is a deliberate one. If it was created by people, it can be dismantled by people. It can be rebuilt in a way that serves all rather than a selfish, hoarding few. Every voice raised against racism chips away at its power. We can't afford to stay silent. I include this book because it gave me the profound realization that there's no such thing as not being political. Politics is something that affects our lives in so many ways. It's not something that happens only in the hallways of power, but it's something that we're all part of. To think any different is actually a political thing because someone convinced you somewhere that politics is not for you and that you can be neutral or silent and not be complicit, and that you're free from these social hierarchies or biases. But don't listen to me. I want you to read this book for yourself and decide for yourself, because there's nothing that I say you should just believe. Decide for yourself, make up your own mind, and then tell me, how do you think this relates to self-improvement and mindset? There are two structures that affect you and your life and who you become. Your internal world, which is maybe the most powerful, but also your external world. And you have to understand both to help you to navigate towards the best possible you and the best possible world that you want to create. So before you judge me and you start ranting in the comments, have a read and then let's talk about the ideas rather than our biases. The next book is one you probably expect. It's Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, the incredible true story of one of the most resilient people on the planet, known for his mental toughness. I'm sure you've seen David Goggins' face all over your YouTube homepage with all the motivational videos, and I wish I checked his book and Captain Sinbad's video on him sooner. This book taught me and reminded me of some really great lessons. It's a positive wake-up call in a world where we're constantly looking for likes, validation and encouragement. And it's telling us, this book is very clear, like we have to build our mental and emotional toughness. You have so much more in you. And as you listen to the story of how one man can overcome broken bones, ultra marathons, brutal military training, regiments waking up in the morning, abuse from early childhood, and he can still remain positive, tough, all these things, and become such an inspirational figure. It reminds you of how powerful we are as human beings. And what sets David Goggins apart from everyone else is this guy's talking from experience. He talks in the book many times about being uncommon amongst uncommon men. And there's no rocket science to his ideas. It's just simple truths that he's applied over and over and over and over again. Three of the main ideas that I got from this book, they were, number one, sometimes your demons aren't gone, they're just dormant. I could definitely relate to that. And if you're wondering why you keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, remember, repetition is how you learn. You have to repeat things over and over again when you revise for a test, and it's the same in your life. Sometimes it takes solving the same problem repeatedly for you to really learn the lesson. The second thing I got was stop looking for the ideal and just get things done. Like you're a D student applying to Harvard, really like that analogy, because the conditions are never going to be perfect and you should just focus on what you're responsible for, which is your craft. And the last powerful lesson was hearing stories of his ultra marathons that he ran, and he had broken shins, he's taped them together with duct tape and made it across the finish line, and realized that when you think you're tired, you're actually only really about 40% of the way there. You've still got more in you, and be willing to do whatever it takes. This next book that I'm about to mention has over 121,000 reviews on Goodreads and still is like a 4.27 out of 5. It's called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, and it's a book that I found really transformational. It's all about embracing your vulnerabilities, your flaws, and letting go of this need for abundance. We hear that a lot in the self-development world. And instead, just like Mark Manson talks about, being enough right here and right now. One of the core ideas in the book is about the importance of building real, meaningful connection in your life, and the kinds of mental movies that we live in that prevent us from really connecting with the people around us. So you can see how already some of these books are connecting with each other. We're all hardwired for connection, but I'm quoting her here when she said, if you roughly divide the men and women that I've interviewed over my work into two groups, those who feel a deep sense of love and belonging and those who struggle for it, there's only one variable that separates the two groups. Those who feel lovable, who love and who experience belonging, simply believe that they are worthy of love and belonging. They don't have better or easier lives, they don't have fewer struggles with addiction or depression, and they haven't survived fewer traumas or bankruptcies or divorce or breakups. It's just that in the midst of all these struggles, they've developed practices that enable them to hold on to the belief that they are worthy of love, belonging, and even joy. The key word there that she said, practices that help them to hold on. Because you can have it once, but you've got to keep being consistent. So if you're struggling with any of these things, or you just want to develop more connection in your life and be happy exactly where you are, be fulfilled wherever you are, despite the problems you might face, I would definitely recommend you check it out. It's something that I share with all my coaching clients, and it's a really, really fascinating book. Book number 8 is Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters, a psychologist who's worked with people like Ronnie O'Sullivan, Steven Gerrard, the England football team, Liverpool FC, the British Olympic team, and more. So if you want to learn what one of the world's top psychologists who works with some of the top athletes in the world has to say about mastering your mindset, especially under pressure, this book is for you. I mean, I think it's relevant to probably everyone. Dr. Steve Peters talks about what he calls the 3 parts of your brain: the computer, the chimp, and the human. And just like in the film Inside Out, these 3 parts interact to influence your behavior at different times. The chimp part of your brain is the most primitive and illogical. It's driven by instinct and emotion, and it only thinks in very black and white terms. The computer is your logical, your reason-based faculties. Then you've got, thirdly, the human part, which is you trying to navigate the two. Now, the 3 best lessons that I got from this book, and I'll definitely recommend it, is number 1, you respond emotionally first to a situation, almost 8 times faster, which explains why we always feel something first, and then we respond with logic later. Do I feel like eating a bar of chocolate? Do I feel like eating this food? The second lesson that I got from the book is that we should accept that life is unfair. And that's all right. That's okay. Accepting this fact has helped me to save myself from so much emotional turmoil and anguish. And I think it's a really important thing to learn. And then he talks about how you can't control the emotional chimp, the emotional part of your brain, but you can manage it. And that these emotions are going to come. So stop trying to control them, but instead learn how you can channel these things, these emotions that arise, in a healthy way, and you can communicate these things in a healthy way. As he says in the book, managing your impulsive, emotional chimp as an adult will be one of the biggest factors determining how successful you are in life. Life is not fair, and it's the way you deal with things, not what happens, that gives you peace of mind. Alright, so the next book is Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. And I'll be honest, I got this for 3 years ago and I just wrote it off as like another popcorn motivation book. But actually, when I sat down to read it recently, I was really surprised. This book is inspirational, poetic, and it really spoke to me. And it's exactly what it says on the cover. A manifesto for staying motivated. I liked that it was clear, concise, simple, and it's not full of scientifically backed ideas, but it's just full of inspirational concepts. Something that I really enjoyed as my first read for 2020. I know there's a few reviews that write it off, but I actually found it really a powerful call to reclaim my best self. And here's a quote from the book. "We must remember, we are not the sum of our intentions, but of our actions. Personal power is directly tied to personal responsibility, which most people avoid." As you can see, I again highlighted so many pages in this book. So if you're looking for a burst of motivation, something to read in the morning just to get you going, a couple of paragraphs, I would definitely recommend you go and check it out. Now for book number 10, we're going to do something different. I've intentionally left it blank because I want you to tell me, what would you add? What is the one book that you think I should add to this list? Comment down below and let's do a vote. The comment with the most likes wins, and I'll add it to my list that I posted in the description. Now, you got these 10 books. Here's the most important message in this entire video if you've watched this far. Most people are going to skip through this video and then forget about the ideas that are presented in this list. This is just a starting point. But as members of this action-taking community, as the Inner Compass community, you're not going to do that. These are my suggestions, but they mean literally nothing unless you experience these books for yourself. Now, maybe you could save them for later, but why wait? And reading a book is not enough. You got to commit to devouring these ideas, soaking them into your mindset permanently. It's not how many books you go through, but how many books go through you. So if I were you, here's the 3 steps I would follow as an action taker. I'd buy all these books, links down in the description, and then I'd comment down below with today's date and the books that you've decided to read. And I'd put a comment saying, I'm going to read this book or these many books by this day, and I'll read this many pages per day. My suggestion is do 20 pages per day, that's about half an hour. And then as I read each book, I'd make a note on my phone or journal, the ideas that I like and what I need to do as an action taker to implement them in my life, how I can design for that. And then number 3, once I'm done, I would come back here and share 1 or 2 lines for each book that I read, and most importantly, why that lesson matters for me in particular. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe and turn on updates by clicking on the bell icon so you know when I release new videos. I'm actually thinking about doing more in-depth book summaries and breakdowns in the next few weeks on all these books. Obviously these are just short summaries. So if you don't turn that bell thing on, you won't know when I post new videos. Alright, so that's the video done. I'll see you next time. Peace.
No, we not the same, cause see when I look in your iris, you likely to talk but not ready to ride. You do better keeping it quiet. My pen is ignited, my soul is enlightened. I like who I am, but I'm biased. They